what's up? This is Funky Maya representing Unique Breakers, and I'm gonna tell you a little story about the Mexican b-boy scene. Here it started back in the 80s. B-boys were influenced by the big films, but also they were influenced by the migration that was coming back and forth from the US to Mexico. During this time there was a lot of unemployment and people had to go back and forth. And so during this time there was a lot of street parties. We call them sonideros, and these mobile discotheques, they would display some of the like b-boys, and also there was a lot of b-boys that would went to these parties. And some of those crews were called Los Recas, Master Wavers, also Nesa York City Breakers. These are some of the most famous. And it got really popular that there was even a show on TV that which they called Disco Jackson, and some of these groups got to go on this platform and TV, and it went all out. But at the same time, in 1985 there was a big earthquake here in Mexico City, and because it was the main center where most of the information went in and out, many of the b-boys stopped dancing because they had to take care of their families, and they had to do other ways of making a living. So it had to go underground, and the best way that it prevailed was through these these street parties. So after it went underground during the 90s, there was groups that started forming that had dance and rap, and they started combining these two, and they would display it as well. Some of them is Sindicato del Terror or Cuarta Cuadra. Well, during this time there was also other underground parties called tardeadas, and these tardeadas would be the parties where you would find other b-boys, or they would display their moves, and you would know that there was other b-boys doing their thing. Two of the main crews from this time were the Latin Kings and Los Primos, and the second crew, they do a lot of shows in the streets, especially in the Zócalo. So a lot of other kids would see them also, and they would go and ask questions or learn from these crews. And late 90s there would be a lot of immigration coming back, or a lot of immigrants coming back from the US, and they would also bring in information, but also videos from other events that were happening in the US, like B-Boy Summit, Radiotron, and so on. And so during the early 2000s, that's when there was like competitions somewhat like it happening here. They started doing one of the first ones was Battle Sonic. I also know there was another event called Resurrection, and these events started bringing in all the other crews that were around the country, and they would see that there was other crews in Guadalajara, in Veracruz, San Luis, in Monterrey. So all around they would see that there was other b-boys, and so there was like the big meeting point where everybody got together. Some of the crews during this time was La Familia, the legendary Floorborn, Style and Soul, Rhythm and Bait, Underground, and it was just basically the big meeting place, the big convention for everybody. And the interesting thing about all this is that this has given birth to now the Mexican b-boy scene, and there's always been an exchange between Mexico and the US. And even though it has prevailed during the hard times, like back in '85 where the whole scene stopped, or back in 2009 where there was influenza here in Mexico and we couldn't do anything, b-boys have come around even stronger, and I think that's what makes the Mexican scene very important and interesting, because even though we don't have the best resources, we don't have studios, it's very limited spaces where you can go and practice. People go to the streets and they do their thing. There's a scene in every country and there's a story in every place. And the Mexican b-boy scene is one of those that keeps on fighting and pushing and prevailing, even though the circumstances. So these are the stories that we need to tell, and also listen from others, because I know there's a lot of brothers in Latin America that have these circumstances, and we need to tell them and hear each other and build from there, because it's all about building and being able to construct for our families, for ourselves, for our communities. And I just hope everybody the best, and I hope we can keep on building and sharing and expressing ourselves. Peace, love, unity, diviértanse y con todo.